pigeon poop. You know, we went from, you know, potentially hazardous waste now that we're dealing with pigeon poop. And, you know, we had to answer those questions because we opened up that can of worms. You know, where's the fine line? When can you and when can't you discharge something down a storm sewer? And if you can, what are the prerequisites and what's the peripheral behind the discharge? Well, it's all in the scientific data. To do this job, we're supposed to be 1/3 now, 1/3 chemist, 1/3 lawyer. Well, listen, I never liked chemistry when I went to school anyway. But that's basically the deal. Now, they had to figure out some type of mechanism or contraption to recover that wastewater. Even years later, dealing with pigeon poop from the medical center, that the doctors and the physicians had a legitimate concern that they would walk down the sidewalk and pick up that pigeon poop in their shoes and then walk into the hospital. They didn't want that quote-unquote E. coli or fecal coliform from the animals contaminating the hospital. All the way up to somebody holds it. I mean, my understanding is 47.7, 41A, the MS4 for pressure for washing sidewalk or concrete. If my understanding is correct, the reason that's in the city ordinance is the guy that owns the business, an entrepreneur down in the downtown city of Houston, is some wine and urinates on the sidewalk. And he wanted to be able to have the legal right to hose that down into the street down the storm. So yeah, you take a hose, you don't use any chemicals, you don't use any detergents, and you wash off the sidewalk. This is running your business because you have, you know, this is Texas. We have outdoor cafes on the sidewalk downtown, and we don't want to have to sit there and eat our food and smell urine from the wino that crashed out in front of our place at nighttime. So we do, it's an array of things, but I thought that it was imperative and important to tell you what the origin was. Now, all this together. And so anyway, cooperation. Let me move on. I'm sure I'm running out of time. Just throw something at me, Steve. The second C is cleanup. Listen, this is not rocket science. If you generated a waste stream in the process of providing a service or producing a product, clean it up. Okay, got away, maybe went out the back door, side door, front door, you know, something happened, get a company out there and clean it up. And, you know, we can work with you. The third C is compliance. Probably that's why you're here today. You need to comply with the law. It's that simple. This isn't personal. For us, it's strictly professional. We have a job to do. Your competitors want us to do this job. You, once you finish this school, if this is your first time here, want us to do this job. Because if circumstances, I have to word this carefully, if circumstances cause a business to go out of business because of their own actions and consequences to those actions, and you get that business, then everybody's happy. I'm happy. Because we have the people who have put forth the money, who've done their homework, who've done their research, who buy the necessary resources, where they don't violate the law, and they're actually charging a little bit more to get the job done, and they're doing it right, than somebody who goes out there and underbids your bid because they're not going to return the wastewater, they're going to pocket the money because it's all about money. That's why this is white-collar crime. And get them out of business and they have done no work for you, which is probably higher anyway because they, you know, didn't do it right the first time anyway. So, again, 2 hours plus 60 minutes, so you have to write that question down and I'll try to do it. Cooperation, cleanup, compliance, that's why you're here today, part of parcel. The fourth C is criminal enforcement. Every investigator back here has, and us of course, we have the greatest weapon in our arsenal between our two ears. Now, I know you're looking at me and that's hard to believe, it's our fault, but it's true. It's called discretion. We have discretion. You know, I have a little bit of a standard. I think most everyone here does. It's either it's measurable, it's measurable, and we go out there and we make a complaint, we do an investigation, we're probably going to write a ticket. Well, why write a ticket, Sir Walsh? How would I notice a violation? Listen, Miss Williams, stand up, would you? Miss Williams and I worked together for 10 years. The first 10 years we worked together, we gave notices of violations. Thank you, Miss Williams. We had a problem. We were finding ourselves going back to the same facility, the same business, the same company, with the same complaints. They weren't listening. I mean, they were hearing us, but they weren't listening. Do you know what happened? All of a sudden, we started writing tickets after 10 years of writing NOVs, and you know what we noticed? They remembered us. Whether they had to hire an attorney or go to court and fight the ticket or plead the court, when you can get an entrepreneur to write a check to the city of Houston that they don't want to write because they don't have to write per se, believe you me, they remember you. So if you're discharging something that we determine is measurable, chances are you're going to get a ticket. You're not going to get a warning. We've been doing this too long to give warnings. Come on, it's time to get with the program. Then there's certain situations where it's just beyond measurable. Okay, it's substantial, it's significant, it's serious, and that's probably where we're going to have to file criminal charges. But listen, whether or not we file criminal charges or not, it's professional, it's not personal. The reason I shared with you the 4 C's, that they are in chronological order, is because our understanding of the district attorney that we've worked with for over 18, 19 years now, is that's what he looks at. He's going to call up Steve or myself or someone from the back table and say, hey, did they cooperate? Did they clean up? Have they gone to Sylvia's school? Are they complying with the law now? Because he's got a range of criminal enforcement. He can take it to the grand jury and get felony indictments. He can, even after he does that, he can lower it to a misdemeanor. And I've even seen takes a case or two where they just filed a citation. One time, in 18 years almost, they were so impressed with what I call the after portfolio that they dismissed the case. One time in 18 years. because this guy, every time court was there, he was there, hired an attorney, cleaned up. I mean, now listen, we caused some financial responsibilities to some companies. I mean, we have a company that did a pre-trial conversion for $500,000. Was the one that did what did I see? $1 million pre-trial. Okay. Well, but even in that $500,000 pre-trial conversion, you spent another $500,000 in remediation. So that's $1 million just this one case. So the DA can go anywhere from the $1,000 minimum fine to the $100,000 if it's an individual, or $250,000 if it's a corporation or legal entity, DBA or a business, LLC. So we would suggest that you follow the 4C principle. You know, the minimum amount of time, the minimum amount of resources, do the investigation, because at the end of the day, when we finish the investigation, we're going to have a tally sheet of our out-of-pocket costs. Everything that we do, everything that we use, even down to the glass jars, you're paying for anyway. So ask yourself this question. Do you want to pay for one guy out there taking a few samples, or do you want to end up at the end of the day paying for hazmat and the environmental investigations unit team to come out and enforce because you wouldn't let them on the property? There was a clear, distinct violation of state law, and you just sort of lawyered up. Hey, you have the right to lawyer up. It's America, and thank God for that. But just, think about it, and we'll answer any questions. We run an open book investigation. I've been contacted by attorneys out in the field. They started going for so-and-so again because I've been here so long, as is most of us. What's the deal? What's going on? And I tell him what's going on. He said, okay, yeah, go ahead and get on the property. He said, I don't let you, you're going to get on anyway. Well, yeah, you're probably right. So anyways, of course, now, let me close. I don't know how much time I have. How much time I have? 15? I don't want to leave anyone out. Right out of RAD, Environmental Investigations Unit, we do all sorts of waste streams. I was asked to gravitate more toward the pressure washing industry than the others. I think there's 1 2 meters of generated waste stream that's probably a solid. I want to touch on that in just a couple minutes. So let me paint this picture first before I leave the liquid waste stream. Ask yourself this question at the end of the day. The waste stream that you generated in the process of providing your service or producing your product. And I've asked this question 100+ times. If you could capture that wastewater, would you put it in your fish tank at home? And yes, I've actually had 3 or 4 people today tell me they don't own a fish tank. I think they was informal. But the picture that I'm trying to develop is if you can capture that wastewater and put it in a container and drive it home and put it in your fish tank at home, and yes, for those individuals who don't have it, if you have it, would you do it? And maybe one person in all these years said yes, everyone else says no. And so I asked one of the clear principle questions. Well, then why do you think it's okay to put it in the city's fish tank? Listen, I'm not from Texas. I'm not even from Houston. But I've become a Texan, and I've tried to be a good Houstonian, and all my children were born here, and all my children grew up here, and I heard these